Hi, welcome to Notes from a Drama Watcher, a podcast about East Asian dramas, mostly but not exclusively BL dramas. It's part review, part recap, so there will definitely be spoilers ahead. Let's go! Hi, welcome to episode 7 of Notes from a Drama Watcher. This is Em. In this episode, we will be talking about Second Chance, episode 5, the next installment of the Thai series Close Friend, which this installment is called Just Friend, and Word of Honor, episodes 30 through 33, as well as episodes 5 and 6 of Nobleman Ryu's Wedding. So we're going to start off with Just Friend, which is part of the Close Friend series. This can be found on the View website, which unfortunately is not available in America, so you will need to use a VPN in order to view it. This episode stars the actors who played Leo and Fiat from Tharn Type 2. I don't know that I would call this a BL because they're not a couple necessarily in this episode. The actor, I don't know their names, I'm sorry, I didn't watch Tharn Type, but the actor who played Fiat is playing a cat called Mojum, as strange as that sounds, and the actor who played Leo is playing a human named Sin. It's a very short episode. It's like 15 minutes long. It's just about Sin opening his door one day and finding a box outside his door with a cat that someone has left on his porch, and they've left a note asking him to please take care of the cat because they can no longer care for the cat. And in this box, who pops up, Mojum the cat, but is actually played by the human. And that's what it is in this episode. It's the cat and the human going back and forth, mostly the human who's representing the cat. So there are sound effects here. He'll open his mouth and there'll be like a meow or a cat sound coming out. It's pretty cute, I guess, seeing someone play, a cat, but as a human. There's really nothing I can say about this episode. It's shot nicely. The quality of the film work is good, I guess. It's just cute. It's just a cute thing to see this actor playing, a cat. And I can't help but think that the actor who played Leo, he probably wanted to laugh a few times having to interact with this human who's acting like a cat. I would have a hard time not laughing. But one thing is, while I was watching this, it brought to mind immediately something I haven't seen in years, and that is the show Counterattack. Counterattack was a Chinese BL, which I believe got banned. I mean, you can find it on YouTube, I'm sure, but it was banned because that was definitely BL. There was no question about it, and they had a couple of specials. The show itself was, I think, like 6 episodes, and then they had a couple of specials, and one of the, I don't know if it would be considered a special, but they made a movie using the same actors, and it was called This Summer, I believe, and that was also with one of the actors playing the role of a cat. That one was a longer one. That was more than 20 minutes long, and it was not cutesy. So Just Friend is really cute. This Summer was not cutesy. I would not describe these actors in that way. There is a reason that Counterattack was banned. Nothing happens in the summer because one of them is playing a cat, but it's just a different vibe. It's a little more of a steamy vibe and not as happy feel to it, especially at the end. There's not as much of a happy feel to it as you would find in Just Friend. I don't expect that in Just Friend they're going to continue the story in any way. I don't know what more you can add to this. But, if you've got 15 minutes to spare and you are a cat owner, like cats, and will probably recognize some of the behaviors of your cat in this show, it may be something that you want to check out. Next up, we'll be talking about Second Chance, the series, episode 5. As I suspected in the last episode, Tong Fa has been in an accident and is hospitalized. I have to confess, it was very difficult for me to watch this episode. If my voice sounds wobbly, it's because I just came from watching it. Like many people, it hits a little too close to home to see someone that's sick in a hospital bed. Or many people recently, I should say, given recent events. And I have to say, the actor who plays Paper this is going to sound weird, he's a terrible crier. And I mean that in the absolute best way. Sometimes you see people in dramas, as he is here, at the side of someone, sitting next to someone in a hospital bed, and they are like the prettiest criers you've ever seen and look absolutely gorgeous. And, they're softly crying, or they almost sound like they're singing or whatever it is. And he's not like that at all. His eyes are red. He's sobbing against Sung Fa's mom. I thought it was great because it was very raw. It looked very real. I don't know if he was really crying or not, but it looked very real, at least. He keeps saying like, "Oh, it's my fault, it's my fault," and I think that's a guilt that a lot of people feel when someone they love is sick or something unexpected has happened to them. And usually it's not the person's fault at all. There's nothing they really could have done about an accident, but there's just that kind of survivor's guilt. The other thing that happens almost right away in the beginning of the episode is Jeno and his sister come to the hospital to visit Chung Fa. She winds up leaving to get Paper some food because he's been sitting there, and of course, he's saying he doesn't want to eat, and she's like, "I'll get you something," and leaves Paper and Jeno seated there at Chung Fa's bedside. I spoke about this before in the very first episode where I talked about this show with Second Chance. They have that whole storyline about dating violence with Jeno, and I absolutely love that they are continuing the storyline. Paper and Jeno have a whole discussion about Jeno's asking Paper his advice, because he's asking him, what do you do when someone confesses to you? Remember, Chris confessed to Jeno in the school cafeteria, and, Jeno was like alarmed and didn't know how to react. And in this conversation that he's having with Paper about what to do when someone confesses to you, he talks about feeling scared. And he talks about the fact that he was assaulted by Arthur, his ex-boyfriend, and about how he's scared of being hurt. And he says, at least if you're alone, you won't get hurt. I just cannot express how much I love that they are talking about this issue in a BL drama. And they're not just sweeping it under the rug. It is a central part of the drama. And I really don't think I've seen this before in a BL drama. I said this in a previous episode, and then I thought maybe people are misinterpreting what I'm saying, because I've seen one person. We see this in Thai dramas and Taiwanese dramas where someone's like dragging someone down the hallway or whatever by their arm or whatever it is. Usually those people aren't dating, which is why I specify the dating violence issue. So that's where I'm making the distinction as something that I have not seen in a drama before. Now, in the scenes that we saw with Second Chance in the first and I think second episode, they already are no longer dating, right? Jeno calls Arthur his ex-boyfriend, but it's pretty clear that that's probably not the first time that Arthur acted that way, and this is probably what caused them to break up in the first place, is Arthur's anger issues. And I like the way that Jeno, you could tell he's intimidated or scared, but feels he's at least able to bring up this discussion to Paper, and Paper listens to him. He advises him. I don't know how difficult or easy it is to follow the advice Paper gives, because obviously anyone who's been in that situation is going to be very scared to move forward. But just the fact that he sits there and listens and takes him seriously and doesn't just dismiss his fears is something great to see in a BL drama. We also get to see more of Chris in this episode, who is just a confused person right now. First of all, one of his best friends, Chung Fa, is in the hospital, of course, after the accident. He still hasn't figured out what he wants to do for college, what he wants to study. And on top of that is the Jeno situation, where he's feeling upset that he upset Jeno with his confession. And he also still really likes Jeno, but of course he understands Jeno's situation, and he's confused about how he should proceed, whether he should just completely pull back or continue as he was before, letting Jeno know that he likes them and everything. I love how this character, who in the beginning they seemed kind of like a goofball in certain ways, is actually a very thoughtful person and someone who treats Jeno gently. He's gentle with his feelings. Even when he mistakenly tried to railroad him, he realizes his mistake and he pulls back. And I just think he's really good for Jeno to try to make his next steps, whether it's through a relationship or friendship or whatever it is. I just really like that he's gentle with his feelings. They all are. Tongfa and Paper as well really care for each other and try to take into consideration, they may lose their way for a second, but then they try to take the other person's feelings into account. We also continue the storyline of Near and M. To me, honestly, this is the weakest storyline on this show. In this episode, Near is still he's upset about the fact that M knew who he was in the game. He overhears some of his coworkers kind of saying like he doesn't deserve his job, he's not good at his job, and he's only there because M is like vouching for him and kind of gave him the job, and he gets upset about that too, which I feel like there's something I missed, or I'm not sure. I'm not sure why he's as upset as he is about M having given him the job or keeping him on the job that he's not doing well at. I'm not sure why he was upset about that. I understand being upset about the game, about M knowing who he is in real life and not letting him know. I understand that part. I'm not quite getting what he's so upset about the job part for. Why would it be M's fault if you're not good at this particular job? But maybe there's something I missed there. Like I said, this is the weakest pairing I think on the show, and it's not one that I'm particularly interested in, so maybe there's just something that passed me by. But all in all, another, good episode. As you can probably tell, I really am enjoying the Chris storyline, and I'm interested in seeing more of it. And I like the Paper Tongfa storyline. Near and M, I can do without. Doesn't matter to me either way. Geno's sister and her friends were awesome in this episode as well, defending her brother against Arthur because Arthur's up to his shenanigans again. He scared Geno at one point when he saw him and looks like he's up to something. Next up is Nobleman Ryu's wedding, episodes 5 and 6. I believe there are 8 episodes in total, so I guess next week it's about to finish because they put 2 episodes out at a time. It can be seen on View and on WeTV. Again, you'll need a VPN to watch it. I usually set mine to Thailand, and that's how I'm able to see them. Episodes 5 and 6 were a real improvement over the previous episodes. I'm not sure if there's a different producer or editor or writer involved or what it is, but I felt a lot better. Episode 5 was pretty funny. Taehyung is still around. He is the friend of Ryuho-san. He's the one who fell in love at first sight with Choi Ki-won. They're trying to get rid of him because, of course, Choi Ki-won doesn't have any feelings for him. And they basically get into like a poetry battle to win Choi Ki-won's affections. So that was pretty funny. Episode 5 was a pretty short one again, but it was fine. Episode 6, the sister, Choi Hwa-jin, appears again. She appears at a moment when Choi Ki-won and Ryuho-san are really getting along together. They discovered previously that they both like reading. Ryuho-san is a scholar, so, they've got this thing in common and they're getting along really well, and then the sister appears. This throws things for a loop because Ryuho-san, now he really doesn't want to be married to the sister. He says like he views loyalty as very important, and she's not someone who's loyal. She ran away and she left her brother there to deal with the aftermath of her running off, and he's been considering Choi Ki-won his wife this whole time. And so it kind of ends with, first of all, he says he doesn't want to get married to her, but secondly, asking Choi Ki-won to decide what their relationship is with each other. I'm not sure if Taehyung, the other friend, is going to show up in the last 2 episodes, because he bumps into Choi Ki-won at his home, where he's actually dressed as himself, as a man, and he doesn't recognize that he's the wife, but he just realizes, wow, he looks very much like his sister, because of course Choi Ki-won says, oh yeah, that's my sister, when he asks about her. So I'm not sure if he'll reappear again. I remember in the trailer, there was, I think, a letter that Choi Ki-won had written where he's saying, I'm sorry to Ryuho-san. So maybe he's planning to leave him in the last 2 episodes and not stay with him. I'm not sure what will happen, but these were 2 enjoyable episodes. A lot better than episodes 3 and 4 for whatever reason. And I'm curious to see what Choi Ki-won's gonna decide as far as his relationship goes. The storyline just seemed a lot more coherent this time around. It wasn't jumping all over the place. Didn't seem choppy. I'm not quite sure what happened. Did someone new come on staff? Did a new producer come in? I don't know what happened, but it was just a lot better in these 2 episodes, and I hope this quality continues in the final 2 episodes. Lastly, we're going to talk about Word of Honor. I said episode 30 earlier, but that was wrong. Episodes 31 through 33, since they're showing 3 a week now. And then next week will be the final week. It'll be episodes 34 through 36. There's actually, I read a special episode 37. I'm not sure how Yoku is going to handle that. Hopefully they show it and it's not behind a paywall or something, because it's my understanding that that's where our happy ending is. But I don't know what Yoku is going to do for that. Episode 31 sees Wan Kushing rescue Zozishu, who had been sort of being tortured by Prince Jin, and it sees them get married. Just kidding. A lot of people view it as like a wedding, because Wan Kushing does Zozishu's hair, and he takes the hairpin out of his own hair and puts it into Zozishu's hair, which is like an exchanging of wedding rings, I guess. That hairpin, I don't know this for sure. This is just my theory, since I haven't seen the past episode 33. The glazed armor, which we've like forgotten about the glazed armor, but the glazed armor to open the armory of from Healing Valley, it needs a key. Not just the glazed armor is only the lock, it needs a key also. I think that hairpin is the key. I'm like almost 100% sure that's going to wind up being the key, because we see Wan Kushing with that his entire life. In all those flashbacks when he's a child, he's got that hairpin in his hair. And they make sure to show it. So foreshadowing, obviously it's very important. I'm pretty sure that will turn out to be the key for the armory. Also, as part of this scene where Wan Kushing is doing Zozishu's hair, he's asking Zozishu, why weren't you surprised to see me when I came to rescue you? And Zozishu is like, I wasn't surprised. I knew you would come. I didn't know when you would come, but I knew you would come. That just shows, these guys know that they're going to be there for each other. Whichever one of them is in trouble, the other one will come for them, as long as they are physically able to. Episodes 32 and 33 are very tied into each other. Zozishu is recuperating from what he went through at the hands of Prince Jin, and when Kushing's out on his own, Zozishu hears that the leader of the Ghost Valley is being surrounded and is about to be killed, and goes looking for Wan Kushing. Everyone appears to be against Wan Kushing. Even Changling is there against Wan Kushing. Shen Shen, the fifth uncle. Scorpion King, second uncle is there. Everyone is there, apparently surrounding Wan Kushing, ready to kill him. And of course, Zozishu, as I was just saying, they're always, there for each other. Zozishu appears and tries to defend him. And Wan Kushing winds up apparently dying. And what Zozishu doesn't know, what no one told him, and they should have, because it has terrible consequences that they didn't tell him, is that this is all part of a plot, basically. Wan Kushing's way to get revenge. He's still trying to get revenge for his parents, of course, and kind of really to walk away from Ghost Valley. Zozishu knows nothing about this. Not everyone else. Uncle Shen Shen, the fifth uncle, and Changling are in on the plot, as well as Scorpion King and some of the ghosts are in on the plot as well. Zozishu doesn't know this. He thinks Wan Kushing has been killed, and worse, like killed by Changling, which of course he's not going to try to get revenge against Changling, right? He's completely heartbroken. He decides to end his life. He doesn't want to live without his soulmate, so he expels the 7 nails from his body, which means we learned earlier when he first met Ye Bai Yi, if the nails were expelled from his body, I think it was like his internal organs would crush in like on himself, and he would die faster. So he's gonna die. And unfortunately, it turns out, like I said, it was all a plot and no one had told him about it. Wan Kushing is actually alive. And Wan Kushing in episode 33, through a whole series of trickeries and things that he's planned out with Scorpion King, he's able to seek his revenge. He looks so happy that he has his revenge, and you can tell Zozishu's happy for him, but Zozishu also just has like a look of devastation on his face. This is where I have to give credit to Zhang Zhehan. He does a really good job in this episode of showing how upset he is that apparently all these people knew what was going on and he didn't, and also that Wan Kushing turned out to be alive and he mourned him, and also the utter devastation on his face, knowing that he has expelled the 7 nails, and probably thinking to himself, like, how is he going to tell Wan Kushing that he's going to die even faster now? Especially since Wan Kushing is so happy that he has attained his revenge that he has wanted his entire life, and probably thinking he's going to get to ride off into the sunset with his soulmate, and that's not the case. Unless some miracle happens in the next couple of episodes, it's not the case. We've only got 3 episodes left. Like I said, I heard episode 37 is the happy ending, quote unquote, but we may or may not see episode 37 if it's behind the paywall. 33 through 36 are the ones that are part of the official series. And part of the Chinese censors is actually nothing to do with the BL, but these gray kind of characters or evil characters aren't really supposed to get their happy ending, right? So really, Wan Kushing and Zozushi, really more Wan Kushing, are these gray characters. So they're not really supposed to be getting a happy ending. On top of it also being a BL show. I was so heartbroken as I was watching this final episode because I couldn't even feel... I felt like happy for Wan Kushing. He was getting his revenge, but I just knew that Zozishu is standing there on the sidelines, just completely devastated about this decision that he made in the previous episode to expel the nails, and just knowing how crushed his soulmate was going to be when he found out that this happened because they didn't tell him the plan. It's yet another thing he's probably going to feel like is his fault. I did enjoy the episodes. I do have to say I can actually see now where the budget issues come into play, because I feel like earlier episodes they really had a chance to develop the storyline and the characters and everything like that. These 2 episodes, I kind of lumped them together because it was so quick. Everything happened so quickly, so rushed. And I think this is where we can see the budget issue coming into play, that what probably should have been a 40-episode show is a 36-episode show. And now they're having to rush the storyline at the end. It doesn't take away from it being acted very well by everyone involved and, our happiness for Wan Kushing and everything, but they probably could have extended it a little more. We'll see what happens with the last 3. I hope they're not feeling as rushed as these 2 felt, but we'll see. It's unfortunate, but this show was made and no one really had any expectations for it, and they only had the one sponsor. They didn't have money, so they had to finish it somehow. So even though it's rushed, it's still okay. It's still a coherent storyline. And just a couple of notes as far as the podcast goes. I'm probably not going to review Fish Upon the Sky anymore. I made it about halfway through episode 4, and that was about it. Very over-the-top kinds of humor. Nothing against that, whatever, if that's your style, but it's not really my style of humor. So I don't see myself sticking to any sort of schedule, and so I don't want to commit to reviewing a show that I'll maybe watch sporadically or whatever. Also, for those of you missing the Earth Mix pairing, it came out a few days ago, about a week ago, a little short story thing. It's about 10 minutes long, called New Jieu. That's Jiew, the story. New Jieu, the story. And it's with Earth and Mix. Earth is playing someone named Tale, and Earth is playing Wal. Mix is playing Tale. And it's just a short story about these 2 guys who become friends, and one of them develops feelings for the other, and what happens there. I'll let you watch it. I don't want to say more because it's so short, but it's if you're missing Earth Mix, and I hope we see more Earth Mix. I'd love to see them in another series again. So that is episode 7 of Notes from a Drama Watcher. The next podcast, I'm not quite sure yet, but it probably will be dedicated solely to Word of Honor, since Word of Honor is ending. I did get a hold of episode 37, as I said, that happy ending for Word of Honor. So even if they don't show it on Yoku, I am able to see it. I'll give Yoku its chance first. So even if they don't show it there, I will see it after I've seen episodes 33 through 36. And I'll give my thoughts in it as well. The last podcast will probably be kind of an overview of the series as a whole. I'm really going to miss it, and I'm trying to think of what I'm going to watch next. Doesn't look like there'll be any more BL series until I think it was July. Avenue X said on her channel. So I stopped watching Guardian to focus on Word of Honor, but I had started watching Guardian all over again. So I'm either going to do podcast reviews of Guardian, or go back to Killer and Healer, which is actually what I had started watching before learning about Word of Honor, and just dropped poor Killer and Healer after episode. I think I was up to episode 3. So I'm really at the beginning of that one, so I could start completely with that show. And that would be interesting for me to see, because one of the actors in Killer and Healer was supposed to play Zozishu originally, until COVID kind of messed with the filming schedule and messed with everything, and so he couldn't do the project anymore. And that's how Zhang Zhehan came on board, which was a very lucky thing. I think we can all agree. For the chemistry of the show and just how the fates just aligned for this show in many ways. All right. Thanks again for joining me for episode 7, and stay safe, everyone.